This is the one I'm going to use today. It's a small one. I picked it up at a auction or something, yard sale or something years ago. I don't even know what brand it is. It's got just a square edge up there that doesn't get used. And this here's the edge that we use, and we're using the flat side of it against the skin this way. So it's tapered here, and it's not sharp. I mean, it comes to a, it's ground to a point, or to a triangle, you might say, but it's not knife sharp. It's just got an edge there. Another knife I've got, this here I use for big stuff, bears, deer, whatever, anything big. Same principle here. This edge actually gets filed square, and then the real sharp edge knocked off. This edge, the convex edge, is actually filed to a knife edge, and you can shave with it. Okay, whereas this edge is used for pushing the flesh off. This knife, I've been using this knife since I was, I don't know, it's been 45 years probably. It was new. When we were in the fur business, there was an old guy that made them out of the leaf springs from a truck, walnut handles and stuff. And so I grew up with this knife right here. I've had this one forever. So it's like once you buy a knife, you're going to have it forever. So like I say, I've been using that one for 45 years, and it'll outlast 3 more people. The angle, how this actually works and what's going on here, you've got the skin pulled over the nose of the beam. This is the nose. You've got your skin pulled over that, and you're leaning against it. Everybody leans against them a different way. I just grew up leaning right against my hip like that. And the knife itself, the fleshing knife, like I said, that's not a knife edge. It's just a sharp edge. Is pretty much perpendicular to the beam, and you're pushing the meat, the flesh, the fat, whatever off like that. And you can see I'm scraping on that wooden beam, and it's got a contour to it. And most of the time, you're going to do any kind of heavy pushing is mostly going to be on what you call the shoulders of the beam, right there, right there. So that's where you can get the most force. Also, you can get the most force, right on this little bit. You can use the corner of that knife in tough spots. You can use it to really dig in if you got a really tough, gristly spot. I can do, probably, I don't know, I do all my fox and bobcats usually with that little thing, and anything smaller than that, the bigger stuff, this. Same thing here. I have a bigger beam that I would do, coyotes and bears and other things on. But it's the same principle with this knife. I'm still doing most of my fleshing on the shoulders of the beam, and I'm holding it pretty much perpendicular. And it's not about taking great big long strokes. It's just taking nice clean strokes and pushing the flesh and the fat off. Gristly areas, you're going to flip that blade around. It's like I said, this convex area or convex edge is a knife blade, knife edge, and you shave. And usually when you're shaving with it, it's at an angle. You hold the blade at an angle like this, and it's not quite perpendicular. It's tipped back just a little bit, and you're shaving like this. Okay, you're going at an angle like that, and it's cutting. It's shaving the flesh, and that's how they used to do all the shaving on hides before they had the circular wheels that we have today. It was done on a beam like this after it's pickled and it's plumped up. The skin is plump and thick, and they shaved it with fleshing knives. So put in the fleshing beam here, and at this point I'm just interested in quickly getting the heavy stuff off, because it's going to go back in the pickle. Finish pickling. This here is a beam that I use in my trailer. It's a portable one. I've got out in the back end of the shop. I've got one that fastens to the wall. It actually fits about 3 or 4 different size beams. This here's a nice size of a beam here. Get by with a lot of different animals on this. As far as a fleshing knife, I'm going to use this small one today. Like I say, we're just interested in getting the big stuff off, the heavy stuff off. And you'll notice most of the time I'm not using the middle of it like that. I'm using usually just the 2-3 inches off the end of it here. And the beam is kind of shaped to the contour of that fleshing knife. can pull it right up and put it in the arm. This is a little cat. It doesn't have much. There's not much on here that even needs to be fleshed off. But like I say, we want to get the heavy stuff off. A mature cat would have a whole lot of belly fat right there. I've seen it, you know, an inch thick on a big cat. If this was a raccoon, you'd have gobs of fat all over. That all needs to come off. I'm going to spin it around, work my way down. Slide it back up here. We haven't turned the ears yet or anything. We're going to do that after it's well pickled. Like I say, I just want to get the meat and stuff off now, meat and fat. And then we'll finish pickling this thing. Especially since it's got that green belly there, we want to get it back in the pickle. I can almost promise had this cat not been thawed in the pickle and just laid out in the air to thaw, it probably would have been spoiled by the time we got to it. Here's the back of the skin. See, there's almost nothing that has to come off here. A little bit of membrane, but the pickle will work through that. If you've heard the term a fleshing beam, fleshing knife, but didn't know what it was, this is what they're talking about. This is the way everything's been fleshed for many, many years. This is fleshing. If I use the other knife, turn it over and do this, that's shaving. Heavier skins you do end up doing some shaving on, or gristly areas. Most of this kind of stuff, it just pushes off, so that's all I'm doing. Be careful at the edges of the skin. I want to make sure and get the stuff off, but not tear it. This skin was actually about clean enough that if you were just salting and sending to a tannery, it probably would have been okay the way it was to just get the thing salted right away. But I would have been scared with this cat to go that route with it. Some of that membrane can be quite tough. We'll get all the rest of that off. Once it's pickled, we're going to wire wheel it. And we will get into that later. Now, one other thing we got to do at this point is split that tail. And I've got a knife here that I use for splitting tails. It's just an old skinning knife, I don't know. And I've taken and I've filed the end of it so there's just a little bit of a round dull tip on it. And what that does, that allows that knife blade, or the point of that knife, to slide right down that tail without poking into it and constantly getting caught. And I can just slide it in there and just split tails with that. That's all I use that knife for, splitting tails. So there's why I want to split the tail. Okay, see how that's still purplish looking down there? That pickle hasn't gotten all the way through from the skin side, so now it's going to get all the way through. You know, it's going to pickle it all the way around. Also, this being as small a cat as it was, you saw it had almost no fat on it, but yet it's still got, you can see there's fat and membrane and stuff inside that tail that needs to come off. A lot of animals, raccoon especially, they've got fat layer all the way to the tip of the tail. So I split the tails on everything. Let me look it over real quick here. I think we've got it good enough. You can see there wasn't much. Pick this up. That's all the meat and fat I took off of this little bobcat, but still it's important to get the extra stuff off. I could do just a little bit more, maybe up at the head, but I don't know, not that bad. I say the important thing right now maybe is just getting the thing back in the pickle. Like that's that muscle and the cartilage that attaches the ear there. That's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to worry about that right now. We're going to take care of that later. All the lips, all that stuff. That's another big thing about doing this the way I am. By pre-pickling this or pickling it, thawing it in the pickle, everything already started pickling the ears and all. So I'm going to throw it back in there, let it pickle the rest of the way. Then I'm going to do the ears. And you can see there's no slippage on these ears. I mean, every hair is still there. And so now when we take this back out to finish it off, you know, to do our turning and all that, we can take as much time as we need now and not have to worry about the thing spoiling while we're doing all of our turning. Especially if you're not, if you're new to this, you're going to spend a lot of time on that. And that's where I think a lot of people run into problems. They're just spending, you know, so much time getting the ears turned, getting the lips, nose turned, split, eyelids, all that stuff done. By the time they get ready, you get all that done and get the thing salted, it's too late. The hair might not be slipping out, but it's too late for the skin. It's already spoiling. So by doing it this way, it's going to save you some problems. I think it's going to help out a lot of you. So like I say, that's got all the hair there. Everything's good. So we're going to put it back in the pickle just like this, flesh side out now, and let that pickle start working from both directions. I'm going to put it right back into the big pickle barrel there. And I'm going to move it around in there a couple times a day. Anything that I put in a pickle, I try to move around a couple times a day. Make sure the pH is still where we want it. With a big solution, that small cat going into that big barrel and that big solution, it shouldn't have affected the pH. But you still want to check it just to make sure. Yeah, it's still right down there. Right down there at a 1. Back in here, and I'm gonna make sure that every part of it gets saturated with solution. So I'm opening up kind of the back end of it where we skinned it. And I'm getting solution to go all the way through there, make sure that all that skin is saturated good, and we've got all the air out of it. So I've got coming all the way out, pouring out the mouth. So the legs are full, everything's full of solution. The ears. I mean, just that little bit of going in there, you can see it already starting to turn white, where it was real dark pink. So it's already, the acid's going to get to it. In a couple days or so, it's going to be completely pickled, and then we're going to take it back out, and we're going to turn the ears, the nose, the lips, the eyelids, all that. We're going to finish skinning these toes out and flesh those pads, and then we'll be ready to wire wheel it and go on with the tanning process.